I've got another event coming up here this weekend, so I'm gonna try to get what I'm gonna show you done now, and it's gonna hopefully just help the cooling system out a little bit more. I don't want to go to a full-size radiator just yet. That is the absolute last thing, because that'll permanently get rid of my hood latch, among other things that I just don't feel like doing. So I picked up a mini heater core from like a Ford or something like that. I'll put the part number up above and we'll go from there. So this is what it looks like. It's real small. So it's gonna basically, I'm just gonna refer to the rest of this video as my mini radiator. It's just, I don't know, easier for me to say. So this is a 5-inch spow fan, part number so-and-so. It fits on here quite nice, as you can see. That being said, I don't want to put any ties to this. I kind of want to make a shroud so the radiator fan sits up about yay and gets the, it's full blast out of it. This thing's supposed to put out 320 CFMs, and so far everything that I've done spow has either at least matched what it says, if not performed more, and I've got a little like wind gauge in there. I bought some other brands that say they do X CFMs and they never do. So I'm a fan of spow through and through. So with that being said, I've got some metal cut. These lines are going to be essentially where I bend it to kind of put the standoff, and it should stand up just a little bit above this. So again, the fan will stand up about so height. And what I'm going to do with this radiator is it's going to go up in here. It's about the perfect fit, if you ask me. I'll try to mock it up here with one hand. You'll get the idea. It's going to sit something like so. I'm just going to lean it forward. It's going to sit something like so, but I want it to not be sitting on the splitter as a dependent base. As nice as that may be, I want to be able to swap out this bumper from my other normal bumper when it's not road race season. And these two coolant tubes, this little hole up here, where normally my old intercooler piping, my first setup, used to go through, I'm just going to wrap my two heater lines here because I've got no heater, nothing in the car. So I've got my heater line here from the head looped over to the block. So this is just going to come here and go straight down, and the one from the block is going to do the same thing. And they will just tie into there, and I will devise some kind of a mount. I haven't quite figured it out, from here to the chassis or something like that. Now I tried kind of mocking this up with some 5/8 heater hose, but it just doesn't bend. I mean, as you know, it just kind of, you put any bend in it, it just starts to kink. So I unfortunately had to spend some money, more than I wanted to, on this, but the silicone hose is expensive. So as you can see, this stuff wraps and wraps and wraps. So the silicone hose should be able to get me there. I don't want to add any like 90s or 45s. I want it to just be hose. And then, last but least, or not last but least, I got some edge trim. That's just going to kind of go on the bottom of the metal, just so it has some kind of a seal against the mini radiator. So when this shroud is on here, the idea is I will put this up on it and either use some kind of small, some small nutserts, maybe just to kind of fasten it to it. And what I haven't fully figured out is I might then take another piece of metal like a strap and come out from the sides, essentially where these bolt in, and just kind of come out over here and drill a hole, maybe shoot a rivet in here, 2 there, and like maybe 1 here, and I can add another, I can weld to it or something, just to, this thing says it's aluminum. I'm not going to say it's not. It's some kind of crappy pot metal is what it feels like. I really don't want to weld to it. All right, so the general shape's cut out. Put some reliefs there. That way I can essentially bend these folded edges down, and that's where I will then stick the edge trim on it. All right, so here's the plate to the right of the steering wheel. This is a Greg Parts printed part. So what I'm gonna do also in this video is install the data logging switch. So I'm tired of it just kind of running off of, certain parameters. I wanna be able just to flip a switch, data logging on, data logging off, so I can kind of give more information to you guys and ensure that I have it. Then I'm also gonna put another red switch on off to actually control this mini fan. I don't want it to always come on when my other radiator fan's on. Probably will turn both of them on at the same time, on the road track at least, but normal daily driving, I probably don't need this guy running. We'll see, maybe eventually I'll trigger them to be the same, but for now I'm gonna try to add both these switches here. They should both fit here, they're gonna be really close side by side, but let's put some holes in here and get these guys in. All right, so they are mounted up. Red will be my fan 2. This clear one will be if I'm data logging or not. I just cut a little sticker on the label maker that just says fan 2. I'll kind of put it down below there. Then I'm just going to type in data logging. We'll see if that'll fit. Or we'll just say data log. See if we can get that to fit down there or not. It's a little big as far as, lengthwise. So we'll just sort of... see. Yep, that should definitely be able to fit. And data log. Now time to hook up some wires. All right, so the fan is kind of on there. I just took a little Sharpie and kind of marked where it's gonna go. You can kind of see the fan shroud that I made. Essentially just bent up the edges here, and it kind of fits really nice, to be honest. It's a little on the tighter side, but that's great. We're gonna put some of that trim on the bottom. So I'm gonna drill these holes here for an M4 nutsert, and I bought some screws that are gonna go through, you know, the fan and screw themselves into the shroud here. This nutsert should not hit, when it comes through here, it should not hit the bottom of this mini radiator. All right, so rib nut tool, I'm pretty sure I showed this in the past, but pretty simplistic tool. I'm just gonna thread the rib nut on here. Again, it's an M4. Now this is probably a bit overboard, but because I'm kind of OCD on certain things, I'm gonna put a little dab here of some gray Permatex around it, so
Little dab will do ya.
indeed it shall. So I'm gonna kind of put that in the hole, that way it'll just kind of also help seal just whatever. Put it in, and kind of put some downward pressure to make sure it's flat, and squeeze. Now I've got some M4 threads, and I'm just going to kind of clean off the excess around the top here. Obviously that'll cure over time. I'm going to do the same thing for the third one here. And if you can tell, these aren't hanging any lower than the actual legs, so it's not going to run into the radiator itself. All right, so it's fastened on there. Now I'm just going to kind of, I don't have a hole saw, so not this big, so I'm going to try to just jigsaw this out, and then trying to kind of put the Sharpie in there and kind of just ride this blade as far as I can. All right, so there it is, cut out. That was a little more pain in the butt. Definitely recommend, obviously, a hole saw. I just don't have one, and I don't feel like spending like 40 bucks or whatever it may cost for an actual 5-incher. So this is some stuff I got from Ace. It's kind of what I've been using on the other shroud that I got. I'm just gonna basically put this underneath the fan around the perimeter here to just kind of make a nice seal around the edge. Yes, this is gonna sit, but just kind of furthering the seal. I'm trying to get this to be as sealed as possible on the little mini radiator. All right, just kind of putting it around the perimeter here. All right, so there's what it looks like in. Nice snug fit. I kind of got ahead of myself here. The way I think I'm gonna end up mounting this is actually putting some L angle here. I'm probably gonna weld this L angle to my shroud, which will hang over, and I'll probably rivet a couple of things in here just to kind of hold the shroud to this little mini radiator. So I'll probably take this back apart, but for the time being, let's get a rough, rough measurement there. Let's go to the bandsaw now. All right, so we got it cut, and now I've got to allow some clearance here for the fan. So let's just mark, let's say right here. So we're gonna just kind of remove that. Let's see if it fits. maybe clear out just a little bit more on the right and left side here. Not much, but just a little bit. All right, I apologize. I ran into some issues and I just started getting after it just to fix them, and I didn't record some stuff. So I got a tab over here and a tab over here, which is gonna basically bolt to the frame. And what I'm gonna do now is drill 3 holes in here, which I'm gonna put some 1/8" rivets that are gonna go through this tab into the little metal tab that's this guy here. So it'll kind of hold the fan shroud to it, and the fan is attached to the actual shroud I built. So it's kind of like an all-inclusive system now. And God forbid I have to change this little mini radiator out, I'll just drill out the 6 rivets I've installed, and the shroud and the mounting point to attach it, you know, will go there. All right, so here's the mini radiator now. Got a hole, mounting hole up there. Some rivets installed on the side, which kind of holds the shroud to the actual mini radiator, and the fan is obviously bolted to the shroud. These are attached up here, which are gonna mount into the car. So it's kind of all one big unit now. You can see I kind of put a riv nut up in there. That gray stuff's just some sealant I gotta wipe away. And up here, there already was a hole. So I just sort of upsized that for a riv nut. Both riv nuts except your M6 screw or the 10mm bolt head that we use. So now I'm just gonna attach these radiator hoses to it and mount her up. All right, so there it is installed. I got my 1 bolt up there, 1 bolt over there. The 2 heater lines are ran in there and clamped up. Overall, it's a pretty good fit, I think. And if you notice, it's hanging a little bit above where the bottom of the slip is, which means when I go swap back to my other setup, like just normal, you know, whatever bumper and hood setup, this should be able to retain there, and I don't have to worry about the coolant, and you know what I mean, it is what it is. So I can keep this in here permanently now, and not maybe perfect, but you can kind of see if the corner light, if I got some kind of different corner light, maybe to help direct some airflow there and put like a duct kind of aiming down at it, kind of like something, you know, similar down here, it'll get some more direct airflow mixed with also the fan running. So overall, I think it came out pretty good. I'm not done. So now I'm gonna end up routing this line here to go into the head and the other line going back to the block. All right, so here's everything how I'm gonna be hooking the fan into the car and how I'm gonna be hooking the data logging switch up to. So here's my little switch again. It says fan 2 for me and data log, white LED for the data log, red for the fan because that's what my other fan switch color is. So these are the same LED 3-prong switches I've been using. So it's actually pretty simple. I have my fuse tap here that I'm gonna plug into my heater motor in my fuse box because I don't have a heater in the car anyway, so it's a perfect spot to draw power from. I then have this connector that will connect to it, and this will then connect to the bottom pin on my actual switch here. This will be my ground, and if you notice there's 2 here, they're soldered together here in the middle. This is gonna go to the top connector of each of these. And this just has a ring terminal that'll get connected inside the chassis somewhere. So it'll provide a ground for the switch. And then this is actually gonna plug into my fan. I have a bunch of just empty, I'll just show you in a second, but I have a bunch of just stuff that I keep around. So I end up taking the connector off of the fan and putting this connector on it. That way I have a plug for it. This part will just ground to the chassis. This will go into the car. And this will plug into the middle of my fan. So essentially when I give this, you know, it's off and it does nothing. When it's on, it turns on. And then this guy, again, I've got a bunch of conversion harnesses. I just took a pin out. I'm gonna be putting this in pin B8, which is the power steering switch. This will go right into my connector, and this end will go to the bottom of my actual data log switch. So the top of the data log switch will be grounded with this to the chassis, and the bottom of it will be this. So essentially, the ground is killed, and when you flip it, it grounds to the ECU, which will trigger essentially data logging, and I'll show you that in the ECU soon. All right, so the mini radiator has been in the car for probably about a week now, but I had an upcoming event that I just did this weekend. Restart that. All right, so the mini radiator's in the car and running. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw what's great about it is before the car wouldn't go below 188 degrees. Now when I kick both fans on together, the car actually dipped below 180, it hit 179, and I just stopped. So the fan absolutely is doing something. I'm pretty sure it's a mixture of increasing the coolant capacity and, you know, another fan in the system. So between both fans, literally reading on a gauge, it's over 2,000 CFMs blowing or pulling at that moment. Great improve. But at the autocross I went to this weekend, it's at the same track I did the road course on, and I ran, I want to say a total of like 36 laps, which is quite a bit. It was a good time, but each lap, my best lap time was a 42. And with that being said, I would run a lap and then you'd get back in line. So I never really got to push the system. I didn't even run the other fan. It was just kind of pointless. The road track being, more continuous. But at the very end, there was myself, Matt in his EF sedan, and another guy in a Miata. So the event organizer was just like, hey, if you guys want, just space yourself out a little bit and you guys can just do laps. Do laps to your car builds if you want. So I was like, okay, cool, here we go. We can actually kind of get some continuous movement and see how this thing works out. So turn the car on. I think we started at like 180, turn both fans on again, and for 7 minutes, lapping continuous, the car didn't go above 183 degrees. So it absolutely did something, and it was like 82 degrees outside. So it absolutely did something. Will it do great on the overall, full road track? I don't know, but I don't see why it wouldn't, because it's already kind of doing some work now. Not, really long continuous where I might be able to do a little more on the road track. So the cooling might even be better because I'll be moving. And I did just recently order, it's not here yet, but I did just order, I cannot pronounce his name, but there's an individual that makes essentially that gets to delete this, and it's got a duct that goes straight through, which will also help just direct airflow from there and here right to that radiator, which would be great. I just now noticing this, we took out a cone a little earlier and you can see some marks on that. So really happy with the upgrade. And again, I don't want to swap to a full-size radiator, because if I did, I got to remove the T-bar, and this is going to come, well, this would be gone. I throw like a Scirocco radiator or something here, but the intercooler is basically right here. So I would have to push the intercooler forward again, which means I got to cut the other bumper, redo some intercooler piping, stuff I don't want to do again, because I'm really happy with how this setup is going. Worst case, I'll end up cutting the front of the hood a little bit to allow air flow to the radiator or something. But that's going to wrap this video up. I appreciate everybody for subscribing, commenting, everything, because we just hit over like 1,800 subscribers, and that's super awesome. Again, I think I've said it a ton of times. I'm sorry if you're tired of me hearing it, but I'm super, super grateful. I never thought it would go, past 500 or whatever. And the comments and people just, I love the fact that people ask questions and I get to communicate on why I'm doing things, good or bad, and just for feedback. So I appreciate everybody for that. And the overview video I did, I think about a year ago now, hit over 100,000 views, which is just insane. I can't thank everybody enough for just following along the journey of Tiffany and myself and just everything. So if you guys got any questions, comments, concerns about this, or general, just other things maybe you have done that help, because I'm looking for about anything at this point, leave in the comments below, message me on Instagram, whatever it may be, just get a hold of me. I will respond. I try to respond to as many people as I can, as soon as I can. And essentially stay tuned for the next video, because the autocross is already done. And I can tell you the data logging switch worked out quite well. There was some errors that I learned during it. One being, I think you can only get 20 data logs, or you can get 23 or 26 minutes. And I hit the 20 data logs. I told you I did like 30 plus laps. Learned that after the fact. And my external GPS also worked out very well. So the overlay of the gauges is super cool. I already kind of put together a little tiny clip to see how it would look. Super stoked for you guys to see that. I can't wait to get to the actual road course. It's gonna be so much more fun. But again, I appreciate everybody. Stay tuned for the next video.